Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Membership Voice. It's lovely to see some of you as long-term participants who are back with us tonight, some newbies there, so welcome everyone. I'm Caro O'Shea, host for this evening's webinar. Very special welcome to our special guest, Hamish Jones, back for his third webinar in the AI series, so welcome, Hamish. How are you going there?
I'm great, Kara. Thanks for having me again. It's lovely to be here, and hello everybody. And it's good to see some familiar faces and some faces I'm not sure I've seen before. Apologies if I had, but I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Well, but before we go any further, it's important for me at this stage to acknowledge here where I am in Perth, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm hosting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now to formally introduce our guest, Hamish, a 20-year business owner in the telecom and business technology space. 10-year, is it 10 years, Hamish, or is it more than that
Well,
now?
it's now 11 years. It was
11
2014 when I
years.
joined Rotary. Yes.
Wow. Public Image Chair for District 9790, past President of Rotary Club of Strathmore, some marvellous credentials there. Hamish really is passionate about club using text better to increase their impact, boosting productivity, streamlining administration and maximising community impact, as he's demonstrated in his previous AI webinars and other presentations he's done with Rotary. He's spoken to Rotarians across Australia and globally about how AI and other technology can be used for administration and marketing tasks. Tonight, of course, it's going to run through how ChatGPT can be used to help you come up with new project and grant ideas. So without any further ado, over to you, please, Hamish.
Thank you, Kara. And let me share my screen. Uh, Thank you again, everyone, for attending. As Kara mentioned, I am Hamish. I am an 11-year Rotarian and 20-year business owner in the technology space. So I'm particularly passionate about how tools like AI can be used to increase clubs' impact by making life easier in various different aspects. And tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about AI and grant applications. I'm not necessarily going to talk about ideas for new grant topics today, although we can touch on that during the Q&A at the end. I just wanted to more focus on where it might fit in the application process. Full disclaimer from the beginning, I'm not suggesting you use ChatGPT to write your whole grant application and just copy and paste your answers. It's not necessarily the best way to go about it. Having said that, I did run a test early days, and there were two particular grants that I applied for personally in my own business, not row related ones, and sorry, three, and two out of three I actually got the grant without changing anything, but the third was a much more detailed one and a higher amount of money, and it was there that it fell over because the initial results that came out of ChatGPT were a little generic, even if they were quite valuable and quite interesting. So I want to, right from the beginning, this is a time-saving device, but there is still going to need to be some human input into the applications and some editing and drafting that happens after the fact. So, sort of a brief outline tonight before we get started. I'm going to go through some slides, but also get fairly practical here and show some output at different stages through ChatGPT, so you can see how quickly some of this stuff can be done. Just to give you an idea of how, like when I talk time saving, I really want to emphasize how much time it can save in some of the early drafting and brainstorming stuff that clubs are doing. There will be some sort of template prompts and outlines in the slide deck. I have told Kara that I'm happy to share those with him, so there's no need to worry about screen captures or furiously taking notes. As he said, the replay will be available, but also I will, for anyone that's sort of attending live, if they want a copy of the slides, I'll make sure they're available to send out just to if you want to take them back to your clubs and clubs or districts or wherever and work through them and see if they work for you. Happy to use them. I'm not precious about that. I think the more, like I said, it's about increasing impact, and the more people that are using them to more effectively apply for grants, the better. So I just wanted to, first touch on why you might be using it for, and specifically I'm talking about global grants tonight, just to keep it relevant to Rotary at a bigger picture, so I can talk about why I think it helps at the bigger picture. Like, I don't know how many on the call have actually filled in a global grant application, but if you have, you would know that they are particularly detailed and particularly time consuming in many ways. There's a lot of information that's asked for, and a lot of stuff that needs to be clarified. There's some stuff that can be complex there if you allow it to be, with the community assessments, sustainability plans, even things like writing measurable outcomes can be confusing if um, if it's the first time you're doing it and you're not quite sure what to be writing there. Adding in an AI tool like ChatGPT can help you with your research. It has access to all the information on the internet in front of you, and can collate that with information you put in yourself. It can help start with stronger drafts of a starting point, so you're not just starting with a blank page. And obviously, this is all designed to lead to that better impact later on. If you have a more solid application in the first place, hopefully that means that the grants can be sorted out and approved more quickly to through having those more structured ideas and saving that time. So just some ideas tonight, and we'll touch on a couple of these in examples. I think especially in a global grant, some of the easiest ways to use tools like ChatGPT are in that community assessment summaries, summarizing some of the information that you may have collected in surveys and things like that. Drafting compelling need statements. If you're thinking about how you might have those measurable outcomes, it can help there as well. And then, sustainability plans, but even overall, just polishing some of the text. If you're not quite sure that you've articulated yourself particularly well, you could copy and paste what you have written into ChatGPT and ask it to redraft it for you, give you some ideas on how to improve it, just to make sure that it is giving you the message that you want in that in a way that really gets across the message that you're trying to make, and make sure that those reading the applications and assessing your application know what you're really trying to achieve and what the outcomes are supposed to be. And obviously, we just obviously we need to make sure it sticks with the Rotary requirements, and AI is very good at doing what you tell it to do. So if you tell it that you want to make sure that it's aligning with Rotary's areas of focus and all the stuff it needs to include, it's going to include that for you. And I just wanted to reinforce that here on this slide before we go into some examples, and I can show you what I mean by that and what it looks like. So getting into the sort of nitty gritty of the presentation, like I said, I wanted this to be a practical presentation tonight more than just focusing on slides and talking at you. I just wanted to sort of give a demo example of what this might look like and what that might mean. So I've just come up with a project idea that might be a common project for clubs, and certainly has been done numerous times, but there's still a need for it. So it may be a project that clubs are interested in, or obviously it's something that may have been thought about before. So I came up with the idea of a clean water and hygiene in a remote school, let's say Africa, for example. It doesn't really matter where, but it's so the need is that obviously access to that safe water and safe hygiene. With the it's all on the slide there, with the goal of improving health and educational outcomes. So we're going to go through a couple of example prompts and see some of the information that ChatGPT pushes out for you, so you can see how it can save you a lot of time in some of that application process. But before we get to that, I just thought I'd touch on what I mean when I say sort of a ChatGPT prompt. I'm not sure, and I can't see everyone whether they're sticking their hand up or not because I'm sharing my screen, but I'm not sure how many people have used ChatGPT. I know that from webinar one that we did with Caro to especially to the last one I did, that there was a massive increase in the number of people using it, and certainly the conversation I had, I know that a lot of people are using it, but there's still a lot of questions around how to prompt a tool like ChatGPT and what to put in there to make sure you're getting the outcome you look for. So I just thought I'd run over sort of an overarching suggestion for a prompt structure to start getting better results for what you're putting in there instead of just writing in generic sentences and hoping to get those results there. If you put in a little bit more information into your prompt in the beginning, then you are going to get better outcomes and you're going to get them out more quickly. So the first thing I suggest to everyone is to actually tell ChatGPT what role it's supposed to be playing in this sort of outcome. So if you tell ChatGPT that it's a teacher, it's going to write as if it was a teacher. If you tell ChatGPT that it's supposed to write like a doctor or a scientist with many decades of experience and use the technical jargon that a doctor might use if it was writing a journal article, it can write a journal article for you. And so in this situation, we're just going to tell her that it is a grant writer with experience in Rotary, and that its job is to help you write this grant application. It then knows how to structure sentences, how to structure paragraphs. It knows the type of information you're going to be looking for, and you're going to be wanting from that output. It'll give you better results if you tell it exactly what it's supposed to be doing in this situation. Now, input here can be like you've got to give it sort of context and information to work from. If you don't have any information yourself, you can just sort of say, go to the internet and do this research, and it will, most of the tools now have the ability to go and search the internet, so it can collect that information for you if it hasn't already. If you've collected survey notes or something yourself for a particular grant application, you can upload that as files, or if you've got it as text, you can copy and paste text into your prompt. It's just giving that more information to work with in terms of how you want it to draw out the results. Context. So in this situation, we're working on a community assessment. You just make it clear that this is something that's important as part of the application, and it's something that you're looking for. Constraints. If you don't want a 5,000 word essay, you need to make sure it's clear that you don't want a 5,000 word essay. So in this situation, we're telling ChatGPT that we want a 250 word response, and we want we want it to be clear, we want it to be professional, and we want it to be using Rotary appropriate language because it's a Rotary audience, and that's the type of people that'll be looking at it. And then the end goal is we want it to draft that summary for you. I wanted to show you how quickly something like that can come out of ChatGPT. So I am just going to jump into a different window now and share that. So you can see I've got the same sort of prompt here, grant writer, working application. I haven't collected a lot of input data just because I didn't have a lot of files and stuff that I could pull out here, but let's just say that we had done a survey, and here's some of the information that we'd collected for that input data. So it said that in interviews with teachers had shown that there was a lot of absence, girls are missing school because they're off fetching water, things like that. These are some of the stuff that you might collect in a survey and some of the examples. Now, if you were properly doing a grant application, I'd suggest that you have a little bit more than 4 dot points, but this is just the starting point tonight to show you what some of the output might look like. So I'm just going to copy and paste this all into ChatGPT so you can see how quickly you get a result from it. So here's my account, paste it in. So you can see there it's taken basically 4 dot points and turned that into a 5-paragraph community needs output. And clearly from the beginning, you said you've done interviews and consultation with local stakeholders, identified the challenges, and the school in Uganda. It goes through some of the reports and all the dot points there, and it's formulated that text that's is quite readable, makes a lot of sense, but it's not necessarily 100% perfect yet for your club or your project. So you would go through and you would check to make sure that the information you wanted to the information that it has output is clearly articulated and clear there. You can just see, look, there's in less than a minute, you've got 250 words that it could take potentially hours if you were typing it up yourself, just to save time and save that starting point. So that's the first part of that grant application has taken less time, and now you go through and you workshop it obviously, and you change it and you edit it and make it perfect, but it's saved a significant amount of time and given you a starting point that you can work with moving forward to move on to the next part of the application. and then I just thought I'd do another example, sort of some of the measurable outcomes again, similar sort of structure for the prompt, just to make sure you are getting the information, you're getting it in the way that you want it. So in this one, I won't read through each of the role, input, context, constraints, and end goal specifically, but you can see that it's, we're asking specifically for SMART goals, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, just to make sure that we want to get the output that we're looking for at the end of the day. So again, here's one I prepared earlier. And you can see that it's come up with a number of different goals there. So at the end of year one, 1,500 students and 20 staff have that access there. Now, again, you need to you would have more information when you're working on this in terms of number of students. Like in this example, you'd have number of students, number of teachers, everything. This has made some assumptions there because I've just sort of come up with a little bit of information, but it can help articulate goals that you may not even have thought of to add to your situation. If you don't like any of them, you can even just say something as simple as "Don't like these goals. Please give me 10 other suggestions." And then and you can keep workshopping that until you come up with the ideas that most resonate with you, most resonate with your club, and think are going to have the biggest impact in that particular local area. If you've got one particular goal that this school example said there's something they want, and they tell you you can use it to craft that what might be a broad idea into these smart outcomes if you've got a sort of an idea of what you want to achieve without articulating it properly. So it's just the starting point, but it can give you some extra goals around that as well to can help increase the impact of that project and things that you might not even have thought of without sort of coming in and using this tool to help expand some of the ideas and workshops and things to take it further. Mm. And the last sort of example I thought we'd show is the idea of a sustainability plan and what that might mean in terms of what you're working towards to, you know, like the sustainability plan. Obviously, you need to make sure our projects are sustainable. Now, if you apply for grants, any grants now, people want to know that it's not just a one-off donation of money, and then if it's not looked after going forward, it's not going to they want to support projects that are going to be there for the long term. So the sustainability plan is an increasingly important part of it. And again, this is something that can help give you ideas and help articulate more succinctly potentially what it is that you are trying to do and how you can keep it sustainable sustainable, as I mentioned, it's important to do that. So let's show what this example is here and what that might look like coming out of ChatGPT. So again, as you can see, it's outlined it fairly succinctly, and it reads quite well as it is as an initial draft. There, no, the school leadership, parents, and local leaders fully engaged during the process. In setting up a committee to look after it and who the committee include. These are all things that would be an important part of a sustainability plan, especially in a project like this. Now, so obviously the caveat is you need to make sure that this committee actually exists if you are going to follow down this path. So but it could give you some things to think about. If you hadn't thought about how it might be sustainable, there's some ideas there for you that you may not have had thought about or may not have had access to through the skills and knowledge. So even if you hadn't thought about this this potential committee, it might have given you an idea then that's like, okay, well, that is a great idea. Let's go back to the school, or let's go back to a partner club on the ground in Uganda, however that might work, just to have that discussion, and more importantly, after getting the grant, increase the impact of it by making sure it is sustainable and coming up with ideas there. And again, you can continue the conversation by saying things as simple as how else might we might we ensure the sustainability of this project, and get some ideas. And there, as you can see, it's given you a heap of other ideas as well involving the students, because it's in a school. Public reporting to ensure transparency, looking at other funding options, looking at other partnerships, making sure there is water quality testing, service contracts with a local NGO, all these sort of ideas that you may not have thought about yourself, or just may prompt you to put that little bit of extra effort in the beginning, one, to make sure the project's going to work, but also to give you that idea of, give you ideas that you hadn't thought of before, just to it's sort of like your extra partner, your brainstorm, you bounce ideas off, and but also then it can craft it and articulate it for you to help you fill in that application form, and get do it in a significantly quicker amount of time than it had been before. And that's not cheating, it's not doing anything bad. Like, people didn't join Rotary to fill in forms. People joined Rotary to create impact and change the world. So if you could fill in the form more quickly, but make sure the information is there and is collated properly, I think that's a incredibly smart use of Rotarians' time, so they can get to actually doing the project and doing the work, as opposed to spending too much time bogged down in paperwork before we even get there in the beginning. So, look, it's short and sharp tonight, because I like to spend more time, and we can go through more practical uses of ChatGPT and everything. But some of the key takeaways I want to, reinforce that ChatGPT is not here to write the grant for you. It's not ChatGPT's job to fill it in. Like I said in the beginning, yes, I have tested it. Yes, for a small grant, you might get away with it, but the point of it is, it's not to replace the writing. It's to save. It's to be your writing partner. It's to save time, to save you hours, so we can strengthen the impact by potentially articulating things better than you may do so yourself if you're not an expert writer. But it's about getting what you're wanting to say down on paper and making sure that it's getting it across in the best way possible. And like I said, I'm going to share these templates. Try these templates on a grant application, just sort of even the layout for a local grant. It doesn't have to be a global grant. If you've got local grants in your area, if you've got district grants that you want to apply for, try some templates to help craft it. See if it saves you time. Like, you might already be incredibly successful applying all the grants that you applying for all the grants that you do apply for, but you may find that if you're able to fill in some of these grant applications more quickly, you've got more opportunity to then go and apply for other grants as well, and then increase that impact through other funding opportunities. If you're not spending all your time filling in the same forms that you fill in every year, if you can do them in less time, there's more impact opportunities in other just go back and watch a couple of the other videos that we've done on AI. If there's other areas of the club, whether it's helping with some of your marketing and social media, or whether it's helping with some of the other club admin work, just give it a go, see what it works out, start with something small, and see what the opportunities are for there. Thank you, Kara. I'll stop sharing my screen, and happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hamish. Lindsay May, I might get you to put your question, please, because I think there's a trust issue here that I'd like Hamish to explore. So if you would, please, Lindsay.
Thanks, Kara, and thanks, Hamish. Fantastic. I've used it for little things like writing thank you letters and so forth. It's revolutionised the time in putting that together. But my question was, how do we ensure that ChatGPT doesn't allow people to scam the system by avoiding the community assessment, the sustainability, and the measure of outcomes? What you've seen there, is ideal. I mean, there's an imaginary, if you like, project. Just put it all together, and it's fantastic. I'd be giving it the rubber stamp and sending the money down the tube. But you know, it's got me concerned that the actual work that's required might not be done.
Look, I couldn't tell you that there might be people that do try and scam the system. I would hope that as Rotarians, we're all following the four-way test and using that as a starting point, and making sure it is, true and fair to all concerned. Look, in the examples there, yes, in that community needs assessment, I just made up some examples of what had been done through surveys and things like that. I think if a club was using it themselves, they'd have that survey data and they'd be uploading that survey data, anonymized, of course, to protect privacy. Like, you don't put anyone's names in there or things like that, but the data from it, if you upload that as an option, that will, at least you're using that data, and that the output is coming from data that you've input into it. It's not just making things up. But ChatGPT is very good at making things up and coming up with answers for you. So I couldn't say that it's going to stop. And then unfortunately, that does come down onto the people assessing the information to actually do their due diligence to make sure the assessment's been done, and it's not just data that has been made up. I know that doesn't really answer the question, but unfortunately, that's where we are. It could technically be scammed if people wanted to, but hopefully that would still get picked up at the other end from people saying, well, it just doesn't seem to make sense, and it doesn't sort of match up with the survey data if they then go and speak to people on the ground.
Thank you. Oh, I think it's an excellent application. I just want the bank account so I can send the money off.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Hamish, on that one.
Yeah.
Wayne Dawkins, you've asked a question there. Would you like to put it to Hamish?
Yeah, sure. Hamish, I haven't used ChatGPT or any other GPTs apps before. My question is that the best one? Are there others out there from your experience that are better apps to use? I don't know.
And that's a great question. And that it's a matter of marketing in many ways now. Like most most of these sort of language AI apps like ChatGPT will tell you that they are the best, and then a new model will come out and they'll tell you that they're the best in this area and things like that. I use ChatGPT every day, and it's the one I always go back to because I find that it's the best overall for all the use cases that I have personally, and it's probably the most accessible to people when they're starting out. But if you've got Microsoft products now, chances are you've got Copilot, which is another AI product already inbuilt in some of the stuff that you're doing there. It depends if you're using it in the workplace. I would suggest starting with ChatGPT just as a starting point and having a play around with it. There is a free version, so you don't have to sign up for a paid account. The account I have is $20. It's about $30 Australian a month, but I do that mainly because I use it so much in business and other personal use cases that if I was stuck on the free account, I'd run out of credits every day. So just sign up for a free account and have a play around with it and try from there. I think it's probably the most accessible one, but there's you're going to get good results whether you go with that or Google's got Gemini, Microsoft's got Copilot. It's just start with one of them and play around with it and see what it works out for you. I only use ChatGPT mostly as an example because it's the tool I do use myself.
Yeah. Cheers, thanks, mate.
Thanks, Hamish. Thanks, Wayne. A question there, Hamish. The paid version of ChatGPT, as you said, $30 a month versus the free one for nothing. What's the difference between the two? What limitations does apply to the free version?
The big thing for me is the amount of times you could use it in a day. So you will hit limits if you are on a free account. Now, for most people, that's probably not too much of an issue. But when I use it across business and personal use cases, I would hit that nearly every day if I didn't have the paid account. And it does there are different models as everything improves there. So with the paid account, you get access to the latest models more quickly than you do in the free account. Now, that's not necessarily an issue again for most people because the models that are out there already are incredibly good and will do most of the stuff that I've sort of shown tonight. It's just if the more you start using it, the more you're going to find value in using it. So the big thing is the amount of use. For me as a business, there is also the extra value that I can tick the box that says, I don't want you to use my information for training material. So there's an added level of protection there of some of the data and stuff. Not that I put anything up in particular anyway of concern or privacy, because there's so many other extra issues in my business. But again, I don't necessarily want it training or remembering everything I put up there as well. So that's another reason for me to have the paid account.
Thank you, Hamish. A question from Soma Sundaran regarding financial analysis. Over to you, please, to put your question.
Yeah, hi Hamish. I just want to find out whether if you upload an Excel and ask for that to be financially analyzed, would that give you the results?
Yes, I say yes with a caveat. I would eat. ChatGPT can read Excel files. It can read all Microsoft documents, so it can read the data in there and analyze it. There's two potential issues. If it's if it some so if you've got a sort of complex Excel file that you don't use it the way that other people normally use it, then it may not really understand how your data is working. But if it's relatively easy to understand layout in Excel spreadsheet, it can absolutely analyze that data. I would still check it after the fact just to make sure. You can't necessarily 100% trust the data that's coming out of that. My wife, for example, she works a lot with Excel spreadsheets and will use AI to analyze significant amounts of data, but she still has to go over and at least check it over and say, okay, this all makes sense, and make sure there's no sort of obvious red flags there. So yes, again, as a time-saving thing, absolutely you could use it, but like everything else, you still got to give it the human eye at the end and make sure that it is giving you the data that you actually want.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and a good response there, Hamish. Robin Norton has asked a question here that looks a bit like a fan club thing. Over to you, please, Robin, to ask your question.
It's just that Hamish mentioned that we could actually look back at them, so I was wondering where they were.
Oh no, I will share this with Kero after, so whether he emails that or that's coming. So it's not actually published anywhere yet because I've only just made these files, but they were happy to share them with you and work out with Kero how we're going to do that. So we'll make sure you get access to them, Robin. That's fine.
That's great. Thank you.
And perhaps the other side of your question, Robin, the previous recordings of Hamish's fantastic AI webinars on admin and social media are available with the rest of our library on Facebook under Membership Voice and also on YouTube.
Okay.
So there's plenty of good stuff to look at there. A good question there from Wayne Dawkins. Over to you, please, Wayne.
Hamish, I'm a lawyer in the family court in WA, and the chief judge of the family court said last year, or sometime last year at a conference, made a point of saying to all the lawyers, do not use AI to prepare your submissions and affidavits, etc. And about the same time, or later in the year, there was another conference where a lawyer in Victoria, I think, produced the submission, AI generated, lodged it with the judge, and the judge's associates went through it, and all the references, all the cases were made up. I don't know how AI works, but that's one of the reasons why I'm nervous about it. But does AI create things out of nothing? And do you have to be really careful before you submit a document?
Oh, absolutely. I was going to use that example of the legal brief with the made up cases. So it's not as bad as it used to be, but AI does have the possibility of, well, it's in the industry parlance, it's called hallucination. So these AI tools like ChatGPT want to give you the results that they think you want. So in that case, obviously, it felt that this would be a better outcome and it just made up cases because it might have been like, this is an argument that works. Let's just make up a case because we don't know that one exists. So it's absolutely possible that it could still do that again in the future, and it definitely has done that in the past. So that's why I always, whether it's this presentation or others, reiterate the fact that you do need to check what comes out there. It can be it's a tool that can either polish what you've started with or give you that first draft, but you need to cast that eye over it, whether it's whether it's a reference in particular like that one. And I've had doing some different research on other things, asked to look at different legislation as well, and this was talking about particular outcomes, and it had an outcome number, but then it was a different outcome in a different part of that training legislation. So it's like, you still have to check it, but having said that, the writing was still incredibly good, and it still saved me hours worth of work. It's just I had to go through and check to make sure all the references actually match. So yes, in this, if you're going to reference something, definitely check it. And in the case of a grant application, make sure the numbers are right. Make sure that the data is actually from where you said. So it's not about finishing a whole grant application in minutes. That's why it's about still saving hours. It's just not replacing the work you still have to do yourself. It's just hopefully it'll take you a bit less time than it has previously.
Got it. Cheers.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you, Hamish. Elaine Mead, a while ago I scurried past what I assumed was a statement, but sometimes there's a question. There's a good question buried in a statement. So, was there a question there?
It's Peter Garnett filling in for Elaine Mead.
Okay.
But there wasn't a question. Thanks, Kira.
Oh, thank you, Peter. One of the things that's happening in the background to all of this wonderful work with AI and Rotary, of course, is our regional pilot and the wonderful work being done in and by community groups and other people. And I note that a number of my fellow Rotary community leaders are in the audience. So, hi everyone. Hamish, I've asked you this question before, but given that it's a few months between each of these webinars and there are these exciting green shoots sort of breaking out all over the place, based on your most recent observations, how are you seeing community leaders and groups utilising AI tools? I mean, this is obviously one example.
Yeah, I know this is an example, but it's still the big one. And it was a little surprising for me in the beginning that it was the most, like, when I first started talking about this with Rotarians, I thought that the big use case would be social media and marketing and coming up with ideas for posts and content calendars. But the first time I sort of gave a big presentation on AI was at the Fit for Purpose program last year in Sydney, and 95% of people that came to speak to me, and this included it the next morning in the gym at 5 a.m, wanted to talk about using it to for admin, so meeting minutes, transcribing meetings, meeting minutes, turning that into documents and action items and stuff there. So I think that's the big use case that a lot of clubs are looking at first. And the more I think about it, the more that makes sense. And like I sort of said in the presentation, no one joined Rotary to take meeting minutes. No one joined Rotary to fill in forms. No one joined Rotary to do that. We did that because we wanted to join a service organisation and actually do good in the community. So I think anywhere that you can save time is going to be the most important thing. So a lot of those admin tasks, I think, and that's being seen outside Rotary as well. It's those small items that have to be done, but if it can be done by a computer and just with you needing to check it out afterwards, I think that's where the big use cases are and will continue to be going forward.
Super. Thanks, Hamish. A question there from my fellow RCL, Alison Dalzell. Over to you, please, Alison.
Yeah, I was just wondering, you might have covered this at the beginning. I apologise, I missed the introduction, but Hamish, are you one of the Rotary specialists?
I must admit that I'm not listed on the Rotary specialist website for AI. I didn't even know whether that was potentially a possibility as a category. Maybe I should look into that just in case people are looking out for a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about and people have been talking about has just been through word of mouth and just whether it's speaking with clubs or speaking on forums like this. But look, I'm happy to speak to any club. Obviously I'm in metropolitan Melbourne, so unless you're in metropolitan Melbourne or happy to fly me up there, it'll be via Zoom. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about it at any time.
I think that would be amazing if you were willing to be a Rotary specialist, so that all the RCGs or clubs could contact you if they needed advice on this. I mean, sometimes the question might be just a quick question, but you'd be the perfect person to ask. So yeah, that would be fantastic.
I'll have a look into it for you. I'll make that promise now that I'll have a look into getting registered on the site for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Super. Thanks, Alison and Hamish. What a surprising question. Okay, there's a question there from Samasundran about previous webinars. I can point you to those afterwards in the mail out. But yeah, it's if you search under Membership Voice on either our Facebook page, which is called Membership Voice, and similarly on YouTube we are Membership Voice. They all live there, so they're all searchable there. But yes, say more about that one later. Okay. Thank you, Hamish. How would you? And again, this is a little bit generic because we have discussed it before. You had a community group or a club, and you wanted to develop these skills. How would you go about it amongst the group? I mean,
I guess, like I sort of said, it's pick a tool, whether it's ChatGPT or whatever, and just start asking it questions. Like when I was at a business breakfast yesterday, and someone was, they asked, well, I'm in engineering. How can I use AI or ChatGPT in my business? And I'm like, well, why don't you ask ChatGPT how you could use ChatGPT in your business? And he did. He sat down there, he signed up for an account and typed away, and he came and gave him a list of sort of, I think, 30 ideas of stuff that he, and then it was, he's prioritized it in order. And again, for that meeting, it's, they have regular staff meetings. So it's like, well, let's record those meetings and save a bit of time for the transcription there. But literally, I would say to anyone, go and play around with the tool, and it's limited by your imagination. If you want to try something personally, ask ChatGPT for a recipe based on, some of the ingredients you got in the fridge and see what it comes up with. Ask it for a travel plan for your next holiday. We're traveling to Japan soon as a family, and I've asked ChatGPT for suggestions on different places we could potentially go visit. We went to Europe at the start of the year, and I did the same thing. It's like, where are some places that are not your typical tourist attractions, but would be enjoyable with an 8-year-old boy as well as 2 adults. So it's just talk to it and see what it comes up with.
super. Thanks, Hamish. Hamish, turning to Fit for Purpose, and you mentioned it. You mentioned the Fit for Purpose workshop earlier in the webinar. How are you seeing the clubs and I note that we do have some club presidents and one community leader who are involved, and a coach who's involved in the Fit for Purpose program. How are you seeing those clubs developing their artificial intelligence capacity, perhaps not just in this space, but sort of in broader things, social media admin and the rest?
I think for those clubs that I'm still, like every conference, those clubs that embraced it really well are embracing all aspects of it, including using technology for this. And they're probably some of the ones, obviously, given what I presented about there, that I keep more in contact with. And I think that, like everything, they started with one thing and are now adding it into extra parts and taking that next step. And I think it's just exciting to see, because it gives them more time to focus on the actual service project aspects of why they're in Rotary. And I think that's great for those clubs, and it's going to it's going to lead to more success long term.
Just noticed an observation that Carolyn made in the chat. Carolyn, could you speak to that, please? Just briefly, how you're using AI with your conference?
Okay, so my role for next year is to organise a 3-district conference for Rotary. So I'm using it in many ways to make some of the work for the Facebook page, also for the letters to the speakers. I put in what the 3 DGs came up with as what they wanted the theme for the conference to be, and then asked it to give me some ideas before I started speaking to the presenters, because when I sit down with the this is a really big conference, so when I sit down with the presenters, I have to be able to get from them what they're going to talk about that's going to be relative to Rotary and try and move them around. So I've asked ChatGPT to give me ideas that relative to the theme and relative to the person. So if that person is somebody that's an influencer or whatever, it's a different conversation than I have with a major sponsor who comes from an engineering company and just wants to give us money for the conference and play golf. Yeah, so I think when you start using it, you sort of just tiptoe through the tulips with it a bit, and then you start to see that it's got a lot more ability because, I work full time. So putting a program and all that, when you organize a conference, you've got so many letters out, so many letters back in, you're communicating with people a lot. So it helped me to sort of pull all that together. And we did fly Hamish up to Early Beach. So we got him out of downtown Melbourne and he came up and spoke. So yeah, he will travel. He likes traveling.
Super. Thanks, Carolyn. Hamish, did you want to comment on anything that Carolyn said?
Oh, look, I think Carolyn covered it perfectly, and that's sort of what I tried to articulate when I was up there in Airlie Beach. And I must admit, it was a bit of a culture shock going from like 12 degrees in Melbourne to 30 degrees as soon as I got off the plane in the middle of winter. But it is a lovely part of the world, and it is going to have to get up there with the family so I can actually spend some real time there as opposed to a weekend. But as Caroline mentioned, it's limited by what you think you can do. So, brainstorm ideas about how you can approach presenters and some of the ideas, all that sort of extra stuff that comes from the more you use it, the more you realize the capacity of what it can be used for.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hamish. Hamish, looking at this, like we've looked at admin, social media, grants administration and applications and the like. Obviously, all these are silos within a bigger Rotary network. How can you see tools like ChatGPT, AI in general, being able to improve the overall operation of a club that contains those things? I mean, that's the detail, but what about the overall, the bigger picture?
Look, I can see it becoming, for those clubs that fully embrace it, almost like you're a de facto board member, part of the board, part of the planning process. It just becomes second nature to, verify everything and come up with some of that creativity stuff through, ChatGPT. You do your community needs surveys, but come up with ideas as well of some of the questions you're going to ask as part of those community need survey, just to deep dive further into everything, and just as a time-saving thing, it'll become your club secretary that works 24/7 without complaining and without being slow getting the minutes out to you. I think that's it can be any board member you want it to be, and increase that impact across the board as you continue to keep using it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hamish. Okay, perhaps one last question before I invite the audience to express their appreciation. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the adoption of AI in the Rotary Club space?
I mean, the main challenge is, I think, fear, and that could be fear about technology just generally, but also the sharing of data. And that comes back to what I said earlier. You need to be careful on what sort of data you're putting in there. You don't want you want, and especially in something like a grant, you want, if you've got identifying information in there, you want to anonymize it before you're sort of uploading any data like that. And there is also that value in a paid account, so you can ensure your data is kept locally and not used to train the system and shared more publicly, but also lack of understanding in what it can do. And that the only way you can fix that is by jumping on like I could give all the presentations in the world, but if people still don't go away and start trying it and exploring it, they're not going to get the results they want in the end of the day. So I think it's you've just got to start playing around with it and see the results you come up with. I noticed that Lindsay's put in a comment saying that a 6-day self drive to it and found great results. That's what I'm saying. The things that, when people first sign up for something like ChatGPT, they're not signing up to ChatGPT to come up with a travel tour, but when you start realizing it can do that for you, because it does have literally all of the world's information at its fingertips, and it can do things like that quite quickly. It's just a matter of trying different things and seeing what you can come up with and pushing those boundaries, and then you'll realize that you probably can't even think of what those boundaries are, and you can keep pushing further. Like Carolyn mentioned, the more she uses it, the more she finds she can use it, and it sort of snowballs and is allowing her, while still working, to organise a massive 3-district conference.
Fantastic. So AI could be seen to be an imagination enhancer.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hamish. Another brilliant webinar tonight. Now I would invite everyone to switch their microphones on while we give Hamish a round of applause for another fantastic. Good on you, Hamish. Well done, mate.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. But thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you all.